in medicine, we presume that certain things are just not possible, that it's just, well, these things just can't happen, right? And certain things are possible because our definition of medicine say they're possible, and certain things are just not possible, so therefore why would you even think about it? Take, for instance, the work of Dr. Sinclair. All of you need to be paying attention to this guy if you haven't. He has written this brilliant book called Lifespan. And basically this guy, who's a Harvard researcher, senior Harvard researcher, so he's probably not too dull, right? The senior Harvard researcher is basically redefining our understanding of aging. And basically saying, why do we age? Who says we have to age? Who says that by 80 years we have to fall apart and die? And he is literally redefining this entire concept of aging. But this isn't a conversation about Dr. Sinclair. This is actually a conversation about a warrior hero mom who has literally defied the odds of medicine. She's completely defied what medicine thought is possible and has chartered her own path. And the reason why I bring this up is we as physicians, and I'm guilty of this as anyone, we oftentimes tell parents like, well, no, that's not possible. You're so silly for thinking about this. Why would you even think about that? This is how things are. I am the doctor. I know what is right. You don't know what, because you're just a patient. And I'm going to tell you what is possible or not. And you as families, you as people, take our word as the word of God and presume, well, the doctor knows best, so therefore I will listen to the doctor. And it's not the doctor's faults either. It's actually the medical establishment, the medical system's fault. Because our practice of medicine right now has become this black and white, like this is what is right, this is what is possible, and this is how we do things, and that is it, period, don't question it. So the doctors get indoctrinated into this thought pattern. So what is this story? What did this heroic mom do? Why am I even sharing this with you? Well, this heroic mom, this warrior mom, had a little guy, 4 years of age, who ended up having type 1 diabetes. And for those of you who know about type 1 diabetes, typically the course is you get type 1 diabetes, quickly you start needing insulin, and that is the end of the story, right? You get type 1 diabetes, you need insulin, your pancreas fails, and for the rest of your life, you need some kind of insulin injection of some sort. And they're doing incredible research. They're doing stem cell therapy. They're doing all kinds of things to redefine that and see if there's a way for us to regenerate the pancreas. But this mom reached out to me and said, hey, this is what's going on with my kid, and I want to actually stave off. I want to push back the onset of this type 1 diabetes so my kid doesn't need insulin for a period of time. And we even took it a step further and entertained the possibility of, God, what if we could reverse the type 1 diabetes, which is insane, right? Because you can't reverse type 1 diabetes, right? At least not from what we know. You can't stave off type 1 diabetes because once it starts, if everything kind of has a cascade event and ultimately the child, the person, needs to get insulin. But this mom was like, you know what? No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that, and I want you to help me try to defy those odds. And I said, okay, let's do it. I don't know if we can. I've never done it. I think it's possible. I think it's going to take a lot of work. But just because it hasn't been done doesn't mean it can't be done. So let's check it out. And she said, okay. And I said, okay. So we did all kinds of testing. We did immune testing. We did gut testing. We did food testing, mitochondrial testing. I mean, whatever there was, this mom wanted to test it all. And the entire time I was very forthcoming with her. Like, hey, we may just come up completely dry and you may waste a whole lot of money and time and have us be nowhere. And she said, okay. And I was like, okay, as long as you know. So we tested and we found all kinds of things. Massive imbalances in the gut bacteria, gut inflammation, food reactions, huge metabolic issues to the point where I was shocked. Like, this kid had some of the worst mitochondrial markers that I've ever seen in any patient. And his entire system, from literally head to toe, was in disarray. Everything was off. So we treated his gut. We balanced the bacteria. We got rid of the inflammatory foods. We got rid of lectins. We got rid of gluten. We provided him massive amounts of antioxidants, massive amounts of metabolic supporters, mitochondrial supporters, all of these things. And then I just let them be because I was like, okay, let's see what happens. And one of the things that was interesting about this guy was that he had antibodies against his pancreas that the researchers were following, because he was actually part of a research study to look at the progression of his diabetes. So we were lucky enough to have these antibodies against his pancreatic cells, these beta islet cells that produced insulin. So we knew what those levels were. And we also found that he had antibodies against his thyroid. So we had two different measures. And we did the treatment, and then I said, reach out to me. The first thing that the mom found after starting this treatment was that her little guy became more animated. He was more active. He was more engaged. Not that he was autistic and withdrawn, but like there was a more bubbly, energetic version to him. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Okay. I don't know if we've reversed the diabetes, but at least that has happened. And then 6 months went by and we retested him and his thyroid antibodies had come down. I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's a good sign. And now, mind you, 6 months out, most type 1 diabetics are fully insulin dependent. A year out, for sure, they're insulin dependent. And by the time the family had already seen me, it was already 6 months out. And now a year out, with a low sugar, low carb diet, so it's not like he was eating anything he wanted, but with a low sugar, low carb diet, this kid was completely off insulin and his blood sugars were actually completely normal, which was already significant. When the mom did the testing, so we actually measured his pancreatic capacity to produce insulin. It's called C-peptide. We measured the C-peptide before and after. The C-peptide actually had come up, not huge. It wasn't normal. But instead of completely going down and ultimately failing, his pancreatic production of insulin had gone up by like 10%, which was strange. When we remeasured his pancreatic antibodies, the antibodies that were destroying the beta islet cells, these insulin producing cells, they had actually come down, which was also really interesting. Now, I wish the story would have been we reversed type 1 diabetes and oh my God, like this kid was miraculously cured. We didn't. And ultimately, as we relaxed the protocol because it got to be a little bit overwhelming, things actually did slip backwards. But what is a miracle, what is amazing is that this mom, and this isn't a story about me, it's the story of the mom because I just typed some stuff on a piece of paper and say, here you go. This mom, through all of her hard work, what she did is a year and a half out from the onset of the diabetes, was still able to keep her son off insulin and have him growing and have him thriving and having him be healthy. Now, that was the most important thing. I mean, if we controlled his blood sugars, but this kid was not growing and falling apart, like we hadn't achieved anything. And the reason why I share this with you is, one, to celebrate this amazing mom and what she accomplished. But more importantly, to have all of you know that there's so much power that you have to make a difference in the lives of yourself, in the lives of your family, in the lives of your children. And for you not to be dissuaded, for you not to be discouraged if you think that something is possible. When someone else says, well, no, that's just not possible. You can't do that. Who says that you can't? Maybe sometimes we lack the right information to do what we need. And that is where healers and patients and doctors all need to come together to start really pushing the boundaries of our understanding. Because who says things are not possible? If Dr. Sinclair is redefining our understanding of aging, and he believes that in 2 or 3 decades, we may have people living up to 120, 150 years of age, and chances are he's probably not that far off. If he is able to do that, what else can we accomplish? What else can we accomplish if we put our minds to it? And we stop telling ourselves, stop telling you that, no, that's not possible. Stop thinking that. No, you can't fix that through that. No, diet can't fix this. No, supplements can't do that. No, that's just, no. Who says? Who says the human body is incredible in its ability to heal itself? And the only thing that prevents it from doing that is something that is hindering it, whether it's a toxin or a food or a microbial imbalance or whatever. And the more we have these conversations, the more you have these conversations, the more we can understand what is limiting the healing of our society, the healing of your children. And the better we can then step forward together to make that possible. So I'm not going to mention her name. She wanted to stay anonymous, but cheers to this incredible warrior mom. And all of you parents out there have that warrior spirit inside of you. Sometimes, sadly, us as physicians crush that. And I hope this story is a way to rekindle that for those of you that have lost that fire, that feel like you're disempowered and you can't do anything and you have to only rely on X, Y, or Z things. You have the power. You have the capacity. You just need to tap into it the same way this mom did. Thank you so much for watching. This is Dr. K. You be well. Bye-bye.